on being kind, and she's got a 80% on improving in her sport here. And the marks came back at the end, something small written right over here. And the awards that we gave out for first, second, third for things that they did on compassion, things that they did to make the society better, things that they wrote out as a beautiful piece of essay, or they drew something really beautiful on art and expressed themselves. If we start changing as educators, what we recognize as important and powerful, and visually start representing that to parents who are of another generation and don't have the systems to keep evolving because they're not educators, they'll slowly start changing their mindset. And maybe that should change. The first thing could be the report card and the prize distribution ceremonies. Maybe that could be a small start to us trying to make our own little revolution or revolution. And while we talk about revolution, I think it's not about us revolting, but if we are like-minded people who believe in a system, just not attending a conference and going home and we're talking about that, build a community around it. See what people are doing in somebody else's school. Okay, it worked in her school, let's try and adapt in our school as well. Let's collaborate on that. So maybe post this, there should be a community of everybody who's here who believes that the assessment system needs to change. Let's keep sharing with each other what we're doing at each other's schools and keep growing from there.
Okay, so we're going to move to the next one, so I'll just very quickly try and summarize it. Hard to summarize, but I'll try to summarize that or add on a couple of my own thoughts. See, one of the questions, why isn't the system recognizing all of this? Why aren't they doing anything about it? Well, I think that we need to consider the fact that they are us. So, you can't say to CBSE, why aren't you changing, unless people like us tell them what they have to change to. So if we were to say, here is an alternative assessment system which is viable, which can be done, here are the economics of it, here are the advantages, if you can build that case, I guess we'll get a hearing. But if we simply say, change it, it's not, the old one is not working. I think, if I may speak on behalf of the bureaucracy, they might just say, that's not my job. I don't know how to do it. Okay. And the last factor is this whole idea of diagnostics. What is it that you want to diagnose? I could only think of an example from medicine. That they do testing, and if you notice, the tests have become increasingly non-invasive. Even a simple thermometer which had to be stuck into your mouth, it doesn't have to be really. Now you can just point something at the person and get the temperature. So non-invasive diagnostics and a group of numbers which more or less tells you how well you are. Could we get to something similar in education? To say that keep it small, keep it simple, keep it non-invasive, but keep tracking the child that way. It has a long way to go. And as far as qualitative questions are concerned, I think there we need to turn to automation to see if there is a future automation that can actually evaluate qualitative answers. It's not so much a question of technology as a question of developing the right algorithms. After all, if human beings can do it, then there is something in our brains which, if we could track down, would enable the machine to do it also. So let's leave assessment at that point and move on to the next thing, which is curriculum. In curriculum, well, first of all, what is the curriculum? The curriculum, I suppose, is a list of things that we know. I think by and large that would define a curriculum. So if it is history, it would be a list of all the things we know about history. History of the earth, history of India, history of... If it is, physics, it's a list of everything we know about the physical laws of the universe, etc. Now that list, if you make lists like that for all of human knowledge, will obviously keep getting longer and longer with time. That's obvious. So we can safely say that a curriculum which is a list of everything we know will get longer with time. And I think as teachers you've seen that it gets harder each year. How do I cram everything into this one semester? When I was in school, calculus used to be just about touched upon because it would be taught at university. Now it's taught 9th standard upwards. So if that's a unviable thing, I'm just toying with this idea just to see what you think. Like, What would happen if I take a list of all the big things that we don't know in history or in geography or in science or whatever? Well, first of all, I know this much, that children love a question if you can say nobody knows the answer. Okay, they immediately sit up and say, really, nobody does? And in the process of chasing that down, wouldn't they actually run across all the things we do know, automatically, anyway? So, the kind of example I gave you in history, to say that, the Colosseum was used in Rome for gladiators fighting with each other. Okay, fine, that's a fact. But how do we know it's true? Now that would, I think, get you into a totally different area of history, of historians, of archaeology, of evidence, and so on and so on. So that's one thought. We need to take out irrelevant knowledge and skills. To give you an example, a GCSE question, what is an oxbow lake? Now you tell me what will happen to you if you went through life without knowing what an oxbow lake is. Are you likely to sink in one? so, it was probably necessary when people used to go into unknown rivers in unknown continents in boats, etc., etc. You needed to know about oxbow lakes, river bank erosion, but all that is lying in our curriculum. I think that's a very doable exercise. If a committee or if a group of people were to sit down and take out all these little pieces which are no longer relevant and which are actually remnants from a past society, that would give us a lot of breadth. Empty out a lot of things which we can then put our own important things from our time into that, So, I can think of hundreds of examples, but I think you get the idea that it's a house cleaning job that needs to be done with curriculum. The other thing that comes to my mind is that would you agree as teachers that you treat your children or your students as though they come into school with an empty head? Tabula rasa, I think it's called. An empty suitcase. And what is school going to do? We are going to very carefully pack it, so that in your journey of life, these 12 years of packed material is all that you'll need. Whenever you're in trouble, you can open your suitcase and everything will be there, including an oxbow lake. So you take it out and live your life. Now, it worked well in a world where there was no change, very slow changing world. So by the time you finish your 12th, your suitcase is packed, you're now ready for life. But today, you may not need that suitcase first of all. What you have in that suitcase you can get from your phone or whatever it is instantly when you need it at the point of time. So what I'm saying is that, would you say that our education is a just-in-case education? Why do I teach you quadratic equations? Just in case if you need it one day. If we change that to just in time, to say, instead I tell you, if you ever face a quadratic equation in your life, which you probably won't, but if you ever did, I will teach you how to solve it in seconds, without knowing anything about it. You know how that is done today, no? Alexa. But why not? That's their world. So we'll learn to teach them to live in that. So just in case to just in time. The internet must be a subject, as I mentioned. I think that's pretty much obvious. That's something that, where one can go to people like CBSE and say that, look, here's a subject, we'll make you the curriculum. Except that there is one problem with it. If the internet is taught as a subject in school, you will not find a teacher. I love it. I love it because the only way internet as a subject can be taught or can be learned in school is by using the internet itself. There's no other way. So that sort of automatically brings the internet into school. It's something worth trying. If you have a school, and what does it take? Put one corner of the curriculum, 4 hours a semester or something on the internet. And I think that there are some new subjects which we're not touching. We're still stuck, even in the most progressive of schools, we're still stuck with relativity, quantum mechanics when it comes to science, and that's the peak of everything we know, polymer chemistry, etc. But I think networks chaos theory, emergent phenomena, the kind I was talking to you about, that sort of stuff, it needs to come into the school curriculum. It's actually dominating our lives now. Networks, take a simple thing like networks, is not taught in any form, except that our entire world is run by networks. So these are some of the thoughts on curriculum. But we have many practitioners here. So instead of my theorizing on it, let's go from this end onwards. What do you think of curriculum?
Okay, so